Hey everybody, we are teaching Tilt Brush, and this time we're going to look at making machines. Whether it's robots or spaceships or a prototype for a tool, what are some of the Tilt Brush tricks we can use to make something that's a convincing piece of hardware? Maybe it's for anime or maybe it's for prototype design, but there are some tricks we can use. Now with our natural pictures, loose gestures with your arm, that's okay. But for machined hardware, we want things straight and flat. Most people immediately go right for that straight edge, and that's okay. Certain things can definitely be done with that straight edge. Anytime we're using especially things like the tune or the icing, where we really want piping, that type of thing is best done with the straight edge. But sometimes we want a larger plane, like a robot with wide rectangular legs type of thing. Well, we do have some tools like the guides for getting some of those types of shapes. Now, don't think we have to use a square guide to do squares. I'm going to make my square bigger than normal, and we can use the lines to keep things in proportion. So rather than a square, I'm going to switch to the shiny hull so I get a nice shiny metal surface. Small size, no straight edge. So I can draw. Now I'm going to go to here, across to here. The way the hull works, it's always going to keep straight lines. So as long as I'm careful and aim pretty well, I can't even move it around without letting go. So now I've got this trapezoid, a plate that I can start building things out of. So let's grab the plate, duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. There we go, robot head. Not too shabby. Now we're going to use that hull. This time we're going to keep it a nice flat plane, but we're going to make it a slightly different shape. There we go. So now I'm going to grab you. There. Likewise, we could use things like the corners, other parts of it. So if I wanted to get more angular pieces, again, using my hull so I can draw, keeping those lines nice and straight. It helps to aim short and then edge out, so you take advantage of the straight line property. But now I'm going to select all three pieces and group them. So now I've got pieces I can use for other shapes and angles. Let's see, let's get him like that. Duplicate, but mirror image. Whoops. There we go. So we can start building up shape, building up depth, but keeping that rigid solid. Since I'm using the shiny hull, you can see how the lighting dramatically changes the way the surfaces look. Okay, let's get you out of the way. Ellipse is another great shape to take advantage of because I can get these smooth curves. In fact, you can customize that curve for exactly how round, how bulgy do you want. And now I'm going to draw, again, using the lines that are built into it. So that I can keep everything nice and smooth. But now I've got this almost turtle shell shape. Let's see, in this case, we'll use it for shoulder pads. And we'll give him a belly. There we go. Robot taking form. But you can see how using partials of the guide will let you get any smooth surface you need. With the curves and corners, make sure you cover that shape completely because you will see where your highlights are. The more time you spend smoothing it down, the smoother those curves can get. Or if you can follow the lines, you can try to regulate those curves and take advantage of them. Not everything needs to be that perfect. In the case of my robot here, I'm actually going to go back to normal tools. And we're just going to go in with a matte hull and start filling in behind the scenes, as it were. There we go. So a straight edge would be useful for pipes, that type of thing. Any straight, hard lines. I'm even going to use the tune, except we'll use a nice paler color here. You can see no matter how careful I am, it's going to be a little bit wobbly. So here's where using the straight edge does give you some extra use out of these pieces here. They feel much more like straight pipes. They're not going to bend when you don't want them to. Let's get a little bit more filled in back inside the head here. Oops, no straight edge. There we go. Mr. Robot's looking good. Now, another useful tool could be the mirror. But bear in mind with the mirror tool, it only mirrors what you're actually painting. You can't adjust with the mirror. So as an example, I've got two arms here. So let's activate my mirror. Where's my mirror? Here it is. And get it lined up in the middle of my robot here. That's pretty good. So if I was to start painting an arm on this side, you can see how it's going to be duplicated on the other side. So I'm going to switch to a slightly different color again. Got to keep an interesting looking robot here. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to use my shiny hull and watch when I make my arm over here. It does duplicate on the far side, but only the draw. If I now change anything, if I move it, if I change its color, let's grab a nice different color here, recolor. Whoops, recolor. It only affects what is being painted. If I grab it and move it a little bit, they are no longer symmetrical. If I try adding a little more to this guy, little ridges along here, you can see they are being painted over there, but in mirror to this side, so they no longer line up over here quite the same way. So the mirror can be useful. Use it to draw and get pieces in places, then turn it off and do the detail and make each side. Now that it's off, we'll go ahead, we'll get our straight edge going again so we can do some commission bars, that type of thing. A little more detailing that are different to each sides. Now I'm going to reactivate the mirror and do things that pertain to both sides. Let's get a gray whip aerials coming out the top. Except I want them curved, so no straight edge. There we go. If I was to give a glowing eye in here, right now I've got the mirror on, so any eye I do is mirrored twice. I don't like that, so I'm going to turn off the mirror. Just make it one big piece in the middle. There we go. There we go. You can see that was where my mirrored differences are. So now we're going to go in. Feel free to experiment with tools you might not normally do. The wire, light wire, for example, can give a lot of sort of little background animation. Let's get them nice and tiny. So you can see how we can add a little bit more life, a little bit more things going on inside of our robot. A little bit of life, a little bit of animation. So these are the types of tools that'll help hardware feel like hardware. Keep your surfaces sharp, keep your surfaces flat. Straight edge, especially for tubes and piping, but just use guides to get the surfaces themselves. We can then duplicate, move around. The mirror can be useful, but don't get too dependent on it. It's great for setting up the initial structure, but you'll need to turn it off if you're going to do any kind of pose or any kind of updating and customization. I hope this gives you some ideas. I hope this gives you some inspiration. We have a lot of fun doing these. We do these things every week, very nearly. So go ahead and subscribe below as soon as I get my message up here. Get a nice deep red here. Thanks for joining us. Let us know if you have questions in the comments below. Let us know if you have suggestions for future episodes. We've done a whole bunch of these, but we got a whole bunch more to do. But if there's anything you want to know how to do, let us know. Otherwise, have fun with Tilt Brush.